The city of Narithus was quiet but not peaceful. Broken towers leaned at odd angles, their steel skeletons exposed like ribs. Smoke curled from collapsed labs, drifting into the dim orange sky. The protective dome above flickered, cracked in places, letting streaks of harsh sunlight burn the streets. Humans lived here, clinging to what remained of their technology, always wary of the dragons that still soared above. Dragons were creatures of fire and wind, smart and proud, but their power made even humans with courage hesitate. Most of the time, the two species kept a careful distance. Liam Corvin moved quickly through the rubble. He was small for a man used to heavy machinery but fast, and his hands were steady even under pressure. His jacket was torn and dirty but he did not notice. His focus was on the lab ahead, a place where a dragon had been badly hurt and only a human could save it. He had heard the whispers in the city, humans shouldn't try, it's too dangerous, dragons do not forgive failure. But Liam did not think that way. Fear was just another problem to solve. Courage and quick thinking were what mattered. Inside the lab the air was thick with smoke and dust. Liam ducked under a fallen support beam, feeling the tremor of a distant explosion shake the walls. Broken glass crunched under his boots, and sparks flickered from exposed wires. He could smell ozone and something burning, metal, maybe circuits, maybe dragon skin. He kept moving. Every step brought him closer to the dragon he had come to save. Then he saw him. Or rather them. A small dragon child, no larger than a human teenager, crouched over a scorched piece of wood. Its scales shimmered like amber in the weak sunlight, and its eyes were wide with fear. It held the charred object like it was the only thing in the world. Liam stopped a few feet away. The dragon child did not flinch but stared at him, trembling. Can you fix him?" the dragon child asked in a soft, cracked voice. It sounded almost human but with the echo of something older than the city itself. The little dragon pressed the burned fragment closer to its chest. Liam understood without asking. The dragon was asking him to save another dragon, its older brother, injured, broken, probably dying. Liam's chest tightened. He had fixed machines that no one else could, repaired ships and tech that even engineers called impossible. But he had never tried this. Not on a living dragon. Not on a creature whose strength could crush him without thought. And yet he knew he had no choice. Someone had to try. "Where is he?" Liam asked. His voice was calm but his mind raced. He needed to see the dragon, assess the damage and think fast. The longer he waited, the less chance the older dragon had of surviving. The dragon child pointed to the back of the lab, past a pile of debris that looked like it had been thrown by some violent force. Liam took a deep breath and sprinted through the rubble, dodging hanging wires and broken glass. Every step reminded him of the danger. The unstable building could collapse, and the faint hum in the walls suggested more energy spikes. Maybe some automated defense, maybe unstable dragon magic. Either way, it could kill him if he was careless. Finally, he reached a large pod at the center of the room. Cracks ran along the crystal surface. Inside lay the dragon, massive even in its slumber, scales dulled by damage, wings curled unnaturally, eyes closed. Liam felt a pang of fear. The pulse that had injured the dragon had been strong enough to bend metal, break machines, and leave this creature nearly dead. A normal human would have stepped back and left it. Liam did not. He crouched beside the pod and touched the dragon's arm. The warmth was weak. Liam's mind raced, analyzing the problem. The pod's stasis system was failing, and the dragon's body was deteriorating. Its heart rhythm was unstable. If he didn't act quickly, it would not survive long enough for the pod to stabilize. Liam looked at the dragon child, whose eyes reflected desperation, hope, and fear all at once. He swallowed hard. "Listen to me," he said to the little dragon. "I'm going to try. But it's dangerous. You have to trust me." The dragon child nodded, pressing the burned fragment closer. It chirped softly, a sound like a broken bell, a plea that carried more weight than words. Liam felt the pressure. Not just the life of the dragon in the pod, but the faith of this small, terrified creature rested on him. One mistake and both dragons might die. One failure and trust between humans and dragons could be broken for decades. He looked around at the ruined lab. Sparks flew from broken consoles. Smoke rose in lazy columns. He had nothing but his tools, his knowledge, and his courage. He had no guarantee, no backup, no safety net. But that was never the point. The point was to try. To fight when everything seemed impossible. Liam pulled a toolkit from his pack. He examined the pod, the dragon inside, and the fragile energy lines running through the crystal. Every connection, every pulse, every spark could mean life or death. His hands moved quickly but carefully. Sweat stung his eyes and his heart pounded like a drum. Then a sudden vibration shook the pod. Liam's stomach dropped. Something was wrong. The crystal cracked wider, threatening to fail entirely. The dragon stirred weakly, a low groan that shook the floor. Caliph, the dragon child, cried out and pressed its tiny body against the pod's glass. Liam's mind raced. There was no time. The dragon's life was slipping through the cracks of the pod, and he had to act. He grabbed a stabilizer rod and tapped it to the energy conduits, trying to realign the failing matrix. Sparks flew, smoke hissed, and the pod shuddered violently. The dragon child watched, eyes wide, and Liam could feel its fear pressing against his own resolve. He gritted his teeth. I can do this. I must. Suddenly the pod jolted one last time, then went eerily still. The air felt heavier. Liam knew that whatever happened next would decide everything, success or failure, life or death. He looked into Calith's eyes. The little dragon's faith was absolute. Liam tightened his grip on the stabilizer, heart hammering. Whatever he did next had to work. And then he began the first step of the impossible. Liam's hands shook, but only a little. He had stabilized the pod enough to prevent it from shattering, but the dragon inside, Tavern, as Calith had whispered, was still fading. His heart raced, his mind spinning with calculations. Every second counted. The stasis system was failing, and if Tavern's bioenergy dropped just a fraction more, the neural pathways would collapse completely. There would be no coming back. Calith, Liam said without looking up, I need you to stay calm. Stay back but watch. We're going to try something. The dragon child nodded, scales trembling as he pressed the burned keepsake closer to his chest. It was the only thing left of his brother, and he clung to it like a lifeline. Liam understood completely, he clung to hope in the same way. He opened his toolkit and began assembling a series of delicate devices. Bioresonance stabilizers, neural connectors, field regulators. The pod's energy matrix flickered weakly, like a candle struggling against wind. Sparks jumped from exposed conduits. Liam worked quickly, threading nanofiber filaments into the energy lines, aligning the dragon's heart matrix with the stasis pod's failing systems. Every move had to be perfect. One mistake, and the system could overload, or Tavern's fragile body could be irreparably damaged. Smoke curled from one of the conduits. Liam swore under his breath and yanked a shielding plate into place. The sparks hissed against it. Calith stepped closer, eyes wide, claws digging into the floor. Liam noticed the tiny dragon's breathing was shallow, tense. The fear of loss hung thick in the air. He could feel it pressing against his own chest, a heavy weight he could not ignore. Minutes passed like hours. Liam's fingers were raw, his mind straining as he synchronized Tavern's failing bioenergy with the stabilizers. He had never attempted anything like this. Even the most skilled human engineers avoided direct interaction with dragon physiology. It was considered too dangerous. Yet here he was, risking his own life for a creature that could crush him with a single strike. His courage had no room for doubt. Then a sudden surge coursed through the pod. Sparks flew from the stabilizers, and the crystal hull vibrated violently. Liam's stomach dropped. The surge was stronger than expected. Tavern groaned, a low, pained sound that made Calith wince. Liam clenched his jaw and adjusted the field regulators, redirecting the energy through the conduits. The pod rocked, groaning under the stress. You're going to be okay, Liam muttered, not sure if he was speaking to the dragon, the child, or himself. Just hold on. Focus. Stay with me. Calith let out a chirp, more of a pleading sound than anything else. Liam's chest tightened. He had to act faster. The dragon's neural pathways were unstable, flickering like a dying signal. One miscalculation and Tavern's mind could shut down completely. Liam took a deep breath, pushing the fear aside. Logic, knowledge, and courage were his weapons. He focused on them like a blade cutting through panic. Using the exosuit strapped to his back, Liam connected his own biofeedback to the stabilizers. It was risky, almost insane. Humans were not meant to channel dragon energy, but he calculated the risk carefully. By aligning his heartbeat with Tavern's failing matrix, he could temporarily amplify the dragon's energy, giving the pod a chance to repair itself. Sweat ran down his face, his muscles screamed, and his chest burned, but he kept moving. He could not stop now. Calith pressed closer, eyes wide with fear and awe. The little dragon chirped again, tiny claws brushing the pod's surface as if lending support. Liam felt the weight of the child's faith. He could not fail, not here, not now. Every human instinct screamed to retreat, to protect himself, but Liam ignored it. This was beyond himself. This was courage, intelligence, and sacrifice rolled into one desperate moment. The surge hit again, stronger, pushing the limits of the exosuit and the pod. Liam's hands shook violently, but he maintained control, adjusting the stabilizers with precision. The crystal hull began to glow faintly, energy lines pulsing steadily rather than chaotically. Tavern groaned again, this time stronger, a sign that his body was responding, that Liam's calculations were working. Liam's heart pounded in time with the dragon's weak heartbeat. Sweat stung his eyes, muscles quivering, but he could not stop. Each second was precious, and the stakes were higher than anything he had ever faced. Failure was not an option. Lives, trust, and hope were all riding on his skill and courage. Suddenly the pod shuddered violently. Sparks erupted from one of the conduits, hissing in the air. Liam froze for a heartbeat, calculating. If he didn't act immediately, the pod could explode, or Tavern's body could be fatally injured. With a swift, precise motion, he rerouted the energy, directing it through the secondary stabilizers. The crystal stopped cracking. The humming grew steady. Tavern's breathing, faint but regular, signaled that he was holding on. Caliph pressed his tiny head against the pod, a soft chirp of relief. Liam's hands trembled as he loosened his grip on the controls. He had bought more time, but it was far from over. The pod was stable for now, but Tavern's body remained fragile. Liam's mind raced ahead. He had to find a way to fully heal the dragon before the stasis pod failed again. He had to fix him completely. Liam looked at Caliph. "It's working," he said quietly. "But this is only the first step. We have to keep going." The little dragon's eyes widened with hope, but fear still lingered. Liam knew it, this was a fragile victory. They were safe for now, but the real challenge had only just begun. Outside, the city groaned under the weight of ruin and fire. The dome above flickered again. Time was against them. Liam tightened his jaw, feeling the weight of responsibility, of lives resting on his shoulders. He was human, small, fragile. But right now, in this ruined lab, his courage, intelligence, and determination were the only things standing between life and death. A low rumble shook the building. Liam's stomach sank. Something outside was moving, something big. Calith's eyes widened in fear. Liam's mind raced. They had survived the first crisis, but now the danger was far from over. And whatever was coming, they had no choice but to face it. The rumble shook the walls again, louder this time. Liam's hands tightened on the controls of the stabilizers. Sparks hissed along the conduits, and the crystal pod quivered under Tavern's fragile weight. Calith pressed his small body closer, eyes wide, tail twitching nervously. Liam could feel the little dragon's fear as if it were his own. The surge they had stabilized earlier had bought time, but it was temporary. Tavern's neural pathways were still weak, his heart matrix unstable. Every second that passed increased the risk of permanent damage. Liam's mind raced. Standard procedures were not enough. He had tried everything he knew and the usual methods had failed. He needed something new, something daring. Then an idea sparked. It was risky, almost suicidal, but it might work. Liam had read about neural resonance amplification in old research logs, but no human had ever applied it directly to a dragon's bioenergy. The concept was simple in theory. Synchronize a human's neural and bioelectric output with a dragon's energy to stabilize their failing systems. In practice it was deadly. Too much feedback, and both human and dragon could be fried in an instant. But Liam had no choice. He looked at Calith, the little dragon staring at him with unspoken hope. "I'm going to do it," Liam said quietly. "It's the only way. You have to trust me." The dragon child chirped softly, pressing the burned keepsake closer. Liam nodded. The child's faith gave him resolve. He activated the exosuit strapped to his back. It hummed as energy flowed through its circuits. Liam's heart rate surged, matching the rhythm of the stabilizers. Carefully, he connected his neural interface to the pod, aligning his own bioenergy with Tavern's weak, chaotic output. Sparks danced across the pod's surface, and the crystal glowed faintly. Liam felt the dragon's life flickering inside, fragile as a candle in wind. At first nothing happened. Then a violent pulse coursed through the pod. Liam's arms shook as the energy tried to push back against his body. His vision blurred, muscles burning, but he clenched his teeth and adjusted the conduits, guiding the flow. He felt Tavern's own energy hesitate, fight, then begin to respond. Slowly, the neural pathways aligned, like tangled wires finally snapping into place. Calith chirped, excitement and fear mingled in the tiny sound. Liam felt the dragon child's hope pushing him forward, lending him strength. Sweat streamed down his face, but he refused to stop. Every nerve, Every thought, every movement was focused on keeping Tavern alive. The exosuit buzzed with raw energy, amplifying Liam's biosignals far beyond normal human limits. He could feel it, pain, power, life, and death all mingled in one impossible current. Suddenly the pod jolted violently. Sparks flew, the crystal groaning under pressure. Tavern groaned, a low, pained sound that vibrated through the floor. Liam's stomach dropped. He had pushed too hard too fast. But there was no turning back. If he let go, Tavern would collapse. If he pushed further, maybe, just maybe, he could stabilize the dragon fully. He gritted his teeth and focused harder. Adjusting the field regulators, redirecting the pulses through backup circuits, amplifying only what Tavern's system could safely handle. He threaded the needle of life and death. The room shimmered with energy. Smoke and sparks filled the air, and the smell of ozone burned in Liam's nose. Yet somehow, against every warning and every law of probability, it began to work. The pod vibrated, but differently now. Steady. Controlled. Tavern's breathing grew stronger, more even. His eyes fluttered beneath the crystal, weak but open. Liam felt a surge of hope, but he did not let himself relax. Not yet. One misstep could still undo everything. Caliph pressed closer to the pod, tiny claws digging into the floor. Liam looked at the dragon child, who stared at him with wide, shining eyes. "It's working," he whispered, voice hoarse. "We're getting him back." The little dragon let out a relieved chirp, pressing the burned fragment to Tavern's chest as if it helped channel the energy too. The exosuit's hum reached a peak. Liam's body burned with fatigue, his muscles screaming, but he refused to stop. He adjusted the final conduit, threading a delicate wire into the pod's energy lattice. Sparks danced across the surface, then vanished. The crystal glowed with steady light. Tavern stirred, stretching his wings slightly, a small, weak movement, but it was movement. Liam's chest tightened with relief, but he didn't relax fully. He could feel the limits of the exosuit pressing against him. The human body could only take so much energy before it failed completely. But he had stabilized Tavern long enough to buy the next crucial step, transferring full control of the energy back to the dragon's own system. Carefully he began to pull his biofeedback slowly, step by step. The crystal pulsed with life as Tavern's own bioenergy strengthened. Liam felt his own energy draining, muscles trembling, mind hazy. Sweat stung his eyes and he had to bite his lip to keep from crying out. One wrong movement and the delicate balance could collapse. Caliph chirped again, a soft, encouraging sound. Liam glanced at the little dragon, drawing strength from the trust he saw there. "Almost there," he muttered. "Hold on, Tavern. You're stronger than you know." Another surge rocked the pod, but this time it was different. Tavern's energy flowed evenly, stabilized, alive. Liam exhaled sharply, muscles relaxing for the first time in minutes. The pod glowed steadily, humming with controlled power. Tavern's eyes opened fully, amber and alert, fixing on the human who had risked everything. Caliph let out a high-pitched chirp, scales trembling with excitement. Liam sagged to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. Against impossible odds he had done it. But outside, the ruins of the city creaked ominously. The tremor beneath the floor was growing stronger. Something was coming, something big, something dangerous. Liam's victory was real, but it might not last. He looked at Caliph, then at Tavern. "We've bought time," he said, voice steady despite exhaustion. "But the next step will be even harder." The tremor beneath the ruined lab was no ordinary shake. Liam felt the floor vibrate through his boots, through his spine. Outside, the city moaned like it was alive, metal twisting, glass splintering, dust rising in great clouds. He glanced at Tavern, who lay in the stabilized pod, eyes now flickering with cautious awareness. The dragon had survived, but the danger was far from over. Caliph chirped nervously, pressing closer to the pod. The tiny dragon's scales shimmered in the weak light, reflecting fear and hope in equal measure. Liam knew that whatever was coming would test both of them. He took a deep breath, muscles tense, mind racing. There was no time to lose. The tremors were growing, and from the faint rumble outside he could tell it was moving closer. Something massive, something alive. He had stabilized Tavern temporarily with the exosuit, but the dragon's body was still weak. If they were attacked now, Tavern wouldn't survive without direct intervention. Liam made a rapid decision. He had to connect Tavern fully to the energy stabilizers, not just temporarily. The next step was risky. He would channel more of his own bioenergy into the dragon than ever before. It could burn him out completely. But Tavern's life and the trust of Caliph left no room for hesitation. "Caliph, I'm going to need you to trust me again," Liam said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The dragon child chirped softly and pressed the keepsake closer to Tavern's chest. Liam nodded, feeling the weight of their hope pressing against him. This was more than courage. It was necessity, the only way to survive what was coming. He adjusted the stabilizers, routing all conduits into a single harmonized channel. Sparks danced across the pod's surface, and the crystal glowed with a soft, steady light. Tavern stirred, testing the flow of energy, weak muscles twitching under Liam's careful guidance. Sweat ran down Liam's face as he increased the energy transfer, connecting his heartbeat and neural signals fully to the dragons. Pain shot through his arms and chest, but he gritted his teeth and pushed on. One wrong move and both could be killed instantly. The lab trembled violently, dust falling in showers. Liam's mind raced. The tremor outside was no accident. He could hear something massive moving through the ruins beyond the walls, footsteps that shook the very foundations. Whatever it was heading straight for them. He had no idea if it was human, dragon, or something else entirely, but he knew one thing. He couldn't stop now. Tavern's life depended on him finishing this transfer before the outside threat arrived. Energy flowed through Liam like fire, through the stabilizers into Tavern's fragile body. Sparks flew and smoke hissed, but the dragon responded. His limbs stretched, wings twitched, and a low rumbling growl vibrated from deep within his chest. It was weak, almost pain-filled, but it was alive. Liam adjusted the flow, careful to maintain balance. His own body burned, but he held steady. He could not fail. Caliph chirped again, excitement mingling with fear. The little dragon pressed against the pod, a silent cheer, urging Liam forward. Liam's fingers worked with precision, threading the last connections. Then, with a final pulse of his own energy, he synchronized fully with Tavern's biosystem. The pod glowed brighter, pulsing rhythmically. Tavern inhaled deeply, muscles flexing with renewed strength. The low groan of struggle transformed into a deep, resonant growl, a sound that made Liam's chest tighten with relief. The massive tremor outside broke the walls partially, dust filling the room. Liam looked up to see a shadow moving through the ruins. Whatever had been coming, it paused as if sensing Tavern's renewed strength. The dragon stirred fully, wings unfurling inside the pod. Liam stepped back, trembling but alive, watching as Tavern's eyes locked onto him. Amber flames shimmered along his scales, weak but vibrant. Caliph chirped, scales glowing softly in relief. Liam straightened, muscles quivering from exhaustion. "You're back," he whispered, voice hoarse. Tavern's growl was low, questioning, but his eyes held recognition. He had survived because a human had dared what no dragon could do alone. Then the pod shattered with a controlled pulse. Tavern pushed himself free, wings unfolding fully. He rose in the small space of the lab, shaking off the remnants of stasis. Sparks and debris flew as his tail brushed the walls, but he remained steady. Liam took a cautious step closer. "You're okay," he said softly. Tavern tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly, but there was no aggression. Only awareness, gratitude, and strength regained. Caliph hopped onto Tavern's back, chirping softly. Liam watched, breathless. This was it, the moment the dragon had returned from the brink of death, alive because a human had risked everything. But outside, the shadow was still moving. Liam didn't need to see it fully to know it was dangerous. Yet he felt a strange confidence now, a sense of power born from courage and ingenuity. He had done the impossible once. Perhaps he could face whatever was coming next. Tavern stepped fully from the pod, scales shimmering with renewed strength. A low, resonant growl filled the lab, shaking dust from the ceiling. Liam stepped closer, careful but firm. He had stabilized the dragon completely, and the connection between human and dragon was stronger than ever. Caliph chirped again, tail curling around Liam's leg like a protective hug. Liam looked at the ruined lab, at the shadow moving outside, and smiled faintly despite exhaustion. He had faced impossible odds, risked his life for a creature far stronger than him, and succeeded. The impossible had been made possible. The tremor continued outside, a reminder that danger was still present. But for the first time, Liam felt the tide turning. Tavern's wings unfurled fully, brushing the ceiling, and he let out a triumphant roar. The sound vibrated through the ruins, echoing across the city. Caliph chirped in joy, pressing closer to his brother. Liam felt a surge of pride, of satisfaction. Human courage, intelligence, and determination had changed everything. Against impossible odds, life had been restored. But the rumble outside grew louder, heavier. Liam knew this was not the end. The challenge beyond the lab awaited. Yet for this moment he had done the impossible. He had brought fire back to a dying dragon. And the world would never forget the courage of a human who refused to fail. The ruins of Narithis trembled under the shadow of something massive moving through the city streets. Liam stepped out of the shattered lab, Caliph clinging to Tavern's side, and felt the wind shift around him. Dust and smoke swirled through the air, carrying the acrid scent of burning metal. For a moment, Liam let himself feel the weight of exhaustion pressing down on his shoulders. He had pushed every limit of his body and mind to save Tavern, but the real challenge, the world outside, was still waiting. Tavern's wings stretched wide, scales glinting like molten amber. The dragon had fully recovered from stasis, muscles coiling with strength and power. The first deep breaths of life rumbled from his chest, reverberating through the ruins. Caliph pressed against him, chirping in relief and joy, scales vibrating with excitement. Liam felt a smile break across his face. Against impossible odds, a human had saved a dragon, restored hope, and earned trust where others had thought it impossible. But the tremor grew stronger. Liam could see movement beyond the wreckage, shadows of enormous machines, twisted and metallic, creeping toward them like predators. Automated defense units, rogue drones, remnants of the city's military systems, now malfunctioning after the energy surge Liam had channeled into Tavern. They were programmed to eliminate unknown threats, dragons, humans, anything alive that moved, but they had no intelligence, no compassion. Liam knew they had seconds before the units would reach the lab. Caliph, Liam said quietly, tightening his fists, we can't just wait. We have to act. The dragon child chirped in agreement, eyes wide with determination. Liam ran forward, calculating the odds. His plan was dangerous even for a human, but Tavern was ready. Together they could turn these machines' own programming against them. Tavern growled low, a sound that vibrated through the cracked concrete. Liam tapped into the remaining stabilizer energy, linking it briefly to the dragon. Sparks danced across Tavern's scales as his heart and neural energy synchronized with the devices. Then, with a roar that shook the air itself, Tavern leapt. Wings unfurled, he rose high above the rubble, drawing the attention of the rogue units. Liam sprinted, dodging sparks and falling debris, directing the little dragon child to follow close. The machines fired, metal claws snapping, energy beams lancing through the smoke. Tavern dodged with agility no human could match, weaving through the labyrinth of ruins. Liam's mind worked faster than ever, calculating angles, timing energy pulses, predicting drone movements. He had no weapons, no shield, only his courage, his knowledge, and the bond he had forged with Tavern. He tapped the stabilizer again, sending a focused burst of energy into the nearest drone. It sparked, froze mid-motion, then toppled to the ground. Caliph let out a chirp, cheering, scales flashing with light. Liam didn't smile yet, he had to keep moving. One by one, he and Tavern disabled the rogue units, the human ingenuity and dragon power blending perfectly. Machines that had seemed unstoppable fell before them. Liam ducked under a swinging arm, rolled, and directed Tavern's energy toward a collapsed turret. Sparks flew, metal bent, and the turret fell silent. Every success felt fragile, every moment counted. Finally, the last drone stood before them. Liam's breath came in ragged gasps. Tavern's eyes met his, a silent question. Could they finish this together? Liam nodded. Using everything left in the stabilizer, he linked his energy to Tavern one last time. The dragon roared, a sound so fierce it echoed across the ruined city, and charged. The drone fired, energy beams striking the pod-shaped ruins, but Tavern moved faster, smashing the unit in a swirl of claws and fire. Sparks erupted, metal twisted, and silence fell. Liam dropped to his knees, exhausted beyond belief. Sweat, dust, and grime coated his skin. Caliph leapt onto Tavern's back, chirping, tail curling around Liam's legs. The little dragon had never looked happier. Tavern flexed his wings, eyes glowing brighter than ever, fully aware of the human who had risked everything to save him. Liam's chest tightened, not from fear or pain but from pride. He had done it. Against impossible odds he had changed the outcome. He had proven that humans could rise above fear and limitations. Word spread fast. Other humans and dragons emerged from hiding, seeing what had been achieved. Tavern circled above the city, wings slicing through the air, a living testament to courage and partnership. Caliph chirped again, landing on Liam's shoulder, scales warm against his skin. The bond between human and dragons was stronger than ever. The city had been broken, but a bridge of trust had been rebuilt in one incredible moment of bravery. Liam looked out across the ruins, feeling the sun breaking through cracks in the dome. Light fell on twisted metal and shattered glass, But it also touched life, dragons soaring, humans stepping forward, hope returning. He had faced impossible odds, risked death, and still emerged victorious. But more than that, he had reminded everyone, dragon and human alike, that courage, intelligence, and moral determination could overcome even the most impossible challenges. Tavern landed beside him, amber eyes locking onto Liam's. He dipped his head, a silent nod of respect and recognition. Caliph chirped in agreement, pressing the keepsake fragment to the pod's remains, a symbol of survival and faith. Liam smiled faintly, shoulders sagging with exhaustion, knowing this moment would echo across generations. Humans had fought, humans had dared, humans had changed fate itself. The city was still broken. The skies were still scarred. But a single human's courage had saved a dragon, defeated the impossible, and shown that even in a world of chaos, determination and intelligence could make life triumph. Liam Corvin rose, battered but unbroken, standing as proof that humans could rise above fear, above danger, above expectation, and leave a lasting legacy. And for the first time in weeks he felt hope, not just for himself but for the world he had helped to protect.